Well, hello, it's Paul here with another Let's Talk About the Music, and the song we're going to talk about today is USA for Africa and We Are the World. What a good song, hey? It was recorded at the A&M studios in Hollywood on Monday, 28th of January 1985, and it was quite an event. Something like 45 singers, top singers in American popular music, working compatibly with a single purpose. There were some great camaraderie struck up during the course of that evening, jokes and stories and autographs. It would seem that everyone wanted everyone else's autograph, and there was a huge spirit of cooperation that carried over to the entire USA for Africa project. Some of those who came to the studios in LA that night had quite a journey getting there. James Ingram flew in from London. Paul Simon showed up despite having spent the entire previous night at work in the recording studio. Bruce Springsteen had gone without sleep as well, because the day before he'd finished his American tour in Syracuse, and he'd spent that night and much of the day travelling. Daryl Hall had also been on the East Coast rehearsing for a tour that was to start the following week, and Stevie Wonder had big problems getting out of Philadelphia because of the bad weather. Prince was a no-show on the night. This particular night was the night where much of it was going to be recorded, but work had been going on a week or so before, because Lionel Richie and Michael Jackson had cut a rough cut of the vocals, and then Quincy Jones, who was drafted in as producer of the song, sent a copy to all the artists so they had an idea of how the song would be. And he said, return with this cassette on the night and do not make copies. And he said, this will be your contribution to the war on famine. On this particular night, over 150 technicians assembled a complex network of audio and video equipment. And they all worked for free, of course. By 8:30 p.m, the studio was ready. Michael Jackson had been the first to arrive. He arrived around 7:30. And the rest of the artists all started arriving from around 9 o'clock. Quincy Jones actually said on the night, when he saw the artists arriving one by one, they did exactly what he wanted. They checked their egos at the door. In fact, there was a big sign on the door saying, leave your egos here. And as they entered, a recording of the song by Michael Jackson was played again and again. So the melody was becoming established. Artists who had never met were hugging each other, and as Quincy Jones said, there was a sense of oneness and let's get this job done. Bob Geldof was introduced by Quincy Jones as the inspiration for the song, and he said hello to everyone and made an articulate and probably impromptu speech about the desperation in Ethiopia. And he said he didn't want to bring anyone down, but maybe it's the best way of making what you feel and why you are here tonight come out in this song. You got a round of applause, of course. Then to work. First came the ensembles singing the chorus, then the solos, and then what they call the sequences or the ad-libs at the end. After singing the chorus a couple of times, words were getting mixed up a little. Some were singing, it's true we make a better day, and others were singing, it's true we make a brighter day. And there was some sort of discourse among the people, and it was decided that the better line was, it's true we make a brighter day. So it was agreed that that would be the new lyric, because the original lyric was, it's true we make a better day. But they must have forgotten it halfway through, because if you listen to the final version of the song, sometimes the singers are singing brighter, sometimes they're singing better. And when you hear the song, you'd think it was recorded start to finish, wouldn't you? But no, it was pieced together a little bit like a jigsaw. The group, as an ensemble, worked on the chorus for about 4 hours before Quincy Jones got what he wanted. So they were going to work through the night. So it was about 1:30 when the chorus pieces had been done to Quincy's satisfaction. But it wasn't only singing that was taking place on this particular evening, or should I say early hours of the morning, because at 2:30 a photo session was taking place with the artists. So they were all going in to have makeup and stuff put on for what would be the final version of the video. And of course, for photographs to run in Life magazine in April that year. There was going to be a 12-page issue of the evening. And also each artist had to do some autograph work, because each artist signed 100 USA for Africa posters, which would also be auctioned off at a later date. At 3 a.m. in the morning, yes, in the morning, you did hear correctly, the rehearsals of the solo parts started. And Quincy Jones went through the parts with the singers beforehand, telling them the phrasing he wanted. Stevie Wonder and Ray Charles, they used a braille machine to read their lines. And in the early rehearsals, you can actually see from the videos that were shot of the whole event, you can see that some artists were a little intimidated in rehearsing in front of the likes of Stevie Wonder and Ray Charles and Michael Jackson. People, big names like Bruce Springsteen looked a little bit nervous. Kenny Rogers took a while to get his voice warmed up. People like James Ingram were making mistakes. And you just kind of knew that some people were hitting the ground running, like Huey Lewis, and others were taking a while to get there. And I think that's what Quincy Jones was waiting for. He knew that some people were warming to this project quickly. Others were desperate to get there quickly, but it was going to happen in their own time. And I think probably the biggest name there I could mention is Bob Dylan. He took a while to get his bits right. But by 4 a.m. they were all ready to go. Stevie Wonder brought, just before they started, 2 women who had lived through the famine in Ethiopia, who spoke to the group very briefly, basically thanking them for what they were about to do. And this caused 1 or 2 teary eyes. The order of the vocals, who would sing and who would match up with who, was made a couple of days earlier by Quincy Jones and Lionel Richie. And this also meant, by choosing these solo artists, this also meant that there were some artists who didn't get a solo slot. Lindsey Buckingham from Fleetwood Mac, Bette Midler, Waylon Jennings, Smokey Robinson even, and Sheila E. among those. Lionel Richie, before they all started, said, "Of course we've got mics, but we don't have mics for each and every one of you, so you're going to have to huddle and lean in on your part." And on the video, that's evident when you watch it. At the start, Lionel Richie sang the first line on the first take, and there was quite a lot of background noise, so Quincy Jones clapped his hands and irritatingly said, "Wait a minute, we've got to stop making noises on the tape." To which Stevie Wonder responded with a smile and said, "Quincy, hey." And then he and Lionel Richie started to get the giggles. So the first line, Lionel Richie joined by Stevie Wonder, then Paul Simon, with Kenny Rogers for the first couple of takes, missing his cue really and not really reaching the notes. And then James Ingram on the third take, believing he'd already memorised the words, getting up to sing and completely forgetting his words and singing Dum Dum Dum, which set Lionel Richie and Stevie Wonder off again. When Cyndi Lauper came to her part, Quincy Jones had to stop the rehearsals. "Cyndi," he said, "we have a lot of bracelets going on there." And of course, spontaneous laughter from everyone else. Within the hour, the main sequence of the solos and the duets and the harmonies were finished. Now what was left were the final elements and the so-called ad-libs. And Quincy Jones and Stevie Wonder worked with Bob Dylan on his part. Bob Dylan made his fame, of course, on Public Awareness in the 1960s, so it was absolutely right he was here again some 20 years later. And I think Dylan had, well, to me, he looked a bit lost at times. And he took an age to actually get the melody into his head. And he worked with Quincy Jones, but more specifically, he was asking to work with Stevie Wonder on the piano. And Stevie, very patiently, again and again and again and again, played it with Bob Dylan. And they recorded what Bob Dylan was doing. And always, all the time with Bob Dylan, even when Bob was saying, "Look, that's not good enough, I can do it again," Quincy Jones was saying, "Yeah, but that's so good, Bob. Keep it going, keep it going." Very encouraging. And of course he got there in the end. And I think personally, It doesn't matter how long it took for him to get there. You got the Bob Dylan at the end, and I think he sounds absolutely great on it. Bruce Springsteen worked on his part more times than anyone else, which really impressed Lionel Richie. He said afterwards, what a professional. And Bruce said he just wanted it to be as good as he could possibly make it. Well, the night itself finished at 8:20 in the morning, and that's when everyone went home, including Quincy Jones. But a few days later, the assembling of all the parts and the sequences began, led by Quincy, and they spent all that time at the Lion Share studio. So they didn't go back to the A&M studios, because the A&M studios in Hollywood was really a secret rendezvous for all the stars. Because as Quincy Jones said at the start, he says, if certain stars like Prince, Michael Jackson get there and there's hordes of people outside, they'll just carry on in their car and not turn up. So it was a real secret recording studio that they recorded the song in. But then the production work was done at the Lion Share studio, also in Los Angeles. And there they spent 4 days piecing the jigsaw they had into an effective blend. And in order to do that, they had to ask one or two of the singers back. Ray Charles was asked back to add further soulfulness to the song. And as Lionel Richie said, he was the one-take Charles. He did it perfectly on the first go. And that's what he said, actually, to Quincy Jones. He says, just give me the words, Quincy. I remember he had to use Braille. He said, just give me the words, leave the rest to me, and we'll do it in one take. And that's exactly what he did. Also, James Ingram and Stevie Wonder were brought back for more ad-libs as well. And the record then was released a month, 5 weeks later. And on April the 5th, 1985, it was a Good Friday, 8,000 radio stations around the world played the finished version of We Are the World by USA for Africa simultaneously, reaching all races and all beliefs around the world. The song itself was written by Michael Jackson and Lionel Richie. It turned out to be the second biggest ever charity single, 20 million copies worldwide, and in the list of 10 bestsellers of all time. And there, as you can see, the list of the 10 best-selling singles worldwide of all time. And USA for Africa with We Are the World is there among them with 20 million record sales. The song itself won 3 Grammys, 1 America Music Award, and a People's Choice Award, raising $63 million in 1985 for aid in Africa. This is how the song did in the UK, number 1 for a couple of weeks in April of 1985. Sold 500,000 copies here in the UK. But even so, even though that's quite substantial sales, no more than the 35th best-selling single in the UK for 1985, which I find rather surprising. The bestseller for that year was Jennifer Rush and The Power of Love, selling 1.1 million copies. Some other facts about the song. Quincy Jones took time out from The Colour Purple to produce the song. Stevie Wonder was due to co-write with Michael Jackson and Lionel Richie, but had commitments to the music in The Woman in Red, the film, so couldn't afford the time. And LaToya Jackson said that Michael Jackson wrote nearly all the songs. She said 99% of it, but he never felt it necessary to say that, which is typically Michael Jackson, I would say. He was very modest. And of course, Lionel Richie's never said anything about his involvement in the song, but there they are, Lionel Richie and Michael Jackson in the credits. The song itself was released March 1985 all over the world. Went to number 1 in the US 4 weeks. Took just 4 weeks to get there, which is very fast for the American charts. Also went to number 1 in Australia, in France, Ireland, New Zealand, the Netherlands, Norway, Sweden, Switzerland and the UK. Only to number 2 in Germany and Austria. Well, let's go through the solo batting order. I think everyone performed well. It's just a matter of personal opinion, really, isn't it, as to who your favourite was. Some had parts of the song where things were really happening, so they could really shine. Others had lines that were part of the build-up. Lionel Richie gets going first. He always sings with sincerity, and I think a really good choice for the first voice. though having said that, he probably put himself there as he and Quincy did the choosing. He's quickly joined by Stevie Wonder, who's going to really rock it later on in the song, but for now it's Stevie harmonising with Lionel. And I think these two probably had the most fun out of everyone during the course of the evening. Then comes Paul Simon, who during rehearsals, well, he'd certainly hit the ground running. Unlike Kenny Rogers, who joins him, Kenny had been missing his cue during rehearsals and really straining for the top notes, and you can see it in the finished video. But in the song, boy, did he come good, and his voice, I think, just sounds great. James Ingram was another slow starter. He cracked Lionel Richie and Stevie Wonder up when, in the third rehearsal, he thought he'd memorised his lines. So he stepped up to the microphone without his song sheet. Everyone else was using theirs. So he stepped up without his song sheet and then promptly forgot the lines, singing dum-de-dum, la-la-la, so as to keep the tune moving. And this cracked a number of people up. He then hid behind Kenny Rogers as he cracked up himself, knowing that the cameras were on him. But with all these sequences he was asked to do at the end, he obviously had the confidence of Quincy Jones and Lionel Richie. And I was surprised, actually, that James Ingram, though a great singer, no doubt about that, got so much of the song. Others, bigger names, Tina Turner, Dionne Warwick, Billy Joel, just got one line. Next came Tina Turner and Billy Joel, just class, no fuss, ultra professional. Michael Jackson took the first chorus, and he's joined by Diana Ross. Both made it look easy. And at the end of the chorus, you can see in the video that Diana Ross looks over at Michael Jackson and kind of fist bumps the air as if to say, well, that worked. We did well. The second verse starts with Dionne Warwick, or Warwick if you prefer, who was another who began to take ownership of her line the more she rehearsed it. Then into Willie Nelson, who I must admit I thought looked a little lost as he stepped in. And in the video you can see Dionne Warwick is hastily moving her script to him so he can pick up correctly. It looked as if it was going to fall apart, but it didn't. Willie pulled it off. It sounded more comfortable than it looked. Let's put it that way. Al Jarreau came next. He was another who became more comfortable with his line the more he rehearsed it. And the finished version, well, he makes it look easy. All of these artists managed to sound like the individuals they are. Each put themselves into it. However intimidated they may have felt at first, they got past it to make their contribution to a great record. And I'm sure Quincy Jones, above everyone, realised that some would get it right away and others probably take a little bit of work. Here's someone who belted out his lines. Bruce Springsteen, starting up the second chorus. I remember when first hearing this song, I thought he was just going too far. He was too noisy, he was too loud. Now, after hearing it so many times, his second chorus is in complete contrast to Michael Jackson's first chorus, which was probably the reason he was asked to sing that part. Kenny Loggins was next, simple and efficient with his line. Steve Perry had been nailing his line from the very first rehearsal, and so too Daryl Hall. And don't forget, everything was being recorded, and it was going to be Quincy Jones's job to piece all the supposed best bits together in order to create the song. Then came the bridge, led by Michael Jackson. Now, this is a strong part of the song, and I think Michael sounds contained on this bit. He sounded like he had 1,000 horsepower in there and was only using 100. I also think if anyone else had sung this part of the song, I don't think the song would have been the same. I think Michael sounds fantastic here. Then the rest of the bridge, Huey Lewis sounding strong with a great line, "If we just believe there's no way we can fall." Then Kim Carnes blending in well with Huey. And it was on the last take of the session, and it was the first and the only time Cyndi Lauper sang it that way. Her screeching vocals, which are a real standout part of the song, rise above the other two, Huey and Kim, and I think Quincy Jones must have thought to himself when he heard her sing that. He must have thought, now that's what I'm talking about. I thought she was brilliant on this song. Then the ensemble with the full chorus, which had been the first thing recorded at the start of the session. And then the ad-lib sequences. 2 were recorded on the night, Bruce Springsteen and Bob Dylan. And maybe had Bob Dylan not taken so long, maybe Stevie Wonder, Ray Charles and James Ingram wouldn't have had to have been called back a few days later to add more soulfulness and dynamism to the song. Just a terrific song. Huge reputation. Big song as well, over 7 minutes long. And I think we should give mention to Harry Belafonte, who was active in bringing this whole thing together, getting it off the ground, as it were, after the Band-Aid single. And he was responsible also for choosing Lionel Richie and Michael Jackson to actually write the song. It won 3 Grammys, 1 America Music Award, and a People's Choice Award, raising $63 million in 1985 for Aid for Africa. The song itself got mixed reviews from the critics. Some critics said it sounded like a soft drink jingle that you'd hear on television. Other critics said the lyrics are self-indulgent, saving our own lives. They particularly stressed as being self-indulgent. But there you go, they're critics. Others say it was a large-scale pop event with serious political implications, and I tend to go along with that, actually. And I think the people who say, I bought the song because I like it, and it was fun identifying the singers, and it was also pretty good knowing I was helping a cause as well. I think the people who think along those lines, for me, have got it just about right. So that's USA for Africa, and We Are the World. What a tremendous song. Well, that's it for another Let's Talk About the Music. Do hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please subscribe to the channel. And if you liked it, please like. So, till next time, and I hope it's soon. Bye-bye.